Honestly, I don't know how anyone can say, oh, they're just playing into the Empire's hands by accelerating things, unless you haven't seen the original trilogy. Spoiler alert, the Rebels win. Welcome to Auntie K's Tarot, your favorite radical queer Indigenous auntie, bringing you tarot every day. Hello everyone and welcome to Auntie K's Tarot. Today I am going to do my Andor Season 2 Week 2 recap and look at what is about to come. And my perspective on this is somebody who has been involved for decades in Indigenous rights, in land defense, and also has the experience of generations on either side, including my own children in the fight today. And these are the things, my thoughts and notes are the things I want you to think about and consider. But first off, I want to talk about with whose hands the Gormans are playing into, and what the outcome is, because in the Star Wars universe, there's certain outcomes we're already aware of. So this first part I am calling accelerationism for the win, actually. Okay. If the Gorman act, they are playing into the Empire's hands because that's what Dedra suggested. But this is also Luthen's plan to see it burn brightly, to show the citizens the Empire is choking them slowly. Actually, this is what these Gorman want, to stand up for themselves and have some help doing it, to get the rest of their people on board. Are you going to help them or leave it up to the Empire? Do you take the give the Empire hands you? Yes, you do. Why? Because the Empire is wrong. It will work. Mon Mothma is going to start the alliance because of the tragedy that will befall Gorman in week 3. A year later, a year from now, which happens to be on Tuesday. The Empire is playing right into the rebellion's hands. And frankly, the ones who think otherwise are cowards. They're selfish, afraid of their own next sacrifice. I adore Cassian, but he is being overprotective of both the Gorman and of Bix. And this overprotectiveness is cowardly. And I'm glad he gets over this shit by the end. Whatever happens next year on Tuesday in week 3, remember it leads to Luke and Leia. Cassian dismisses Gorman as a soldier, but revolutions are not fought by soldiers. They are fought against soldiers, by warriors, by rebels, by guerrillas. The Gorman front is an action of recruitment at this point in week 2. Their intent is to recruit other Gormans. It's insular. Luthen's intent is to recruit a larger rebellion. The Empire's goal is to recruit an excuse to attack. All three will achieve their goal. And Luthen, alive or dead, he's the one who wins. He's going to win when Mon forms the alliance and rebel cells from across the galaxy all come together for her call after she tells off the Emperor. Honestly, I don't know how anyone can say, oh, they're just playing into the Empire's hands by accelerating things, unless you haven't seen the original trilogy. Spoiler alert, The rebels fucking win. All right, let's talk heroes. Okay. Val and Cinta are going to ask all of us, who will you sacrifice to be a hero? Denise Gow, who plays Dedra, says all these characters see themselves as heroes, and I think she's right. Bix says in the first part, if it's a war, we don't get to decide what we save. And really, she means who we save. And this sets things up. Everyone this week is stuck trying to save something, mostly a someone, except for Cyril so far. What will you fail to act on trying to save the what or who you love? Perhaps this is what we are here to ask this week. Lonnie is one of the big risk takers of the week, next to the Gormans, of course. He's done protecting his life and wife because if he doesn't, Luthen's going to kill him anyway. So he risks it all and makes allies amongst his ISB co-workers. And it tries to get everyone to let up on arrest numbers. While it fails at that, it does get him info. And later on, that info is going to save Bix's sanity. I'm sure that wasn't Lonnie's intention with the risks he took, but we don't choose who we save. Yes, even if you don't expect to see the rebellion win, you don't expect to experience glory, you do see yourself as doing something heroic. You have to at least tell yourself this many times. You have to embrace being the hero if you want to step into the shoes of most of these everyday characters. So now that you're the hero, who will you sacrifice to remain the hero, to carry out this story? A Gorman tells Vel and Cinta, some of us want to protect ourselves, and is immediately shut down. You can't fight a rebellion and save yourself. You can't fight and be the hero and make sure you don't get killed or arrested. Heroes don't worry about protecting themselves. And sometimes it's easier if it's you that you have to sacrifice. What if it's an old lady, someone in the line of fire? What if it's your ego? If you are the hero, for real, you are the hero, who does that empower you to sacrifice to save the mission? If you can't risk your life or your freedom for the cause, don't show up. Don't. This isn't a holo op or a photo op. You are going to risk the lives, you are going to risk the action and the mission. So if you're not willing to sacrifice both your life and your freedom, and don't show up to the action, just go to a protest. Gorman in week 2 is this small weapons heist to prove the Empire is lying. But it's not just some silly action with no impact. It is the beginning. In a year from now, a series of events from this time will converge. The risks taken for these naive Gormans to have their say, to stand up for themselves in their way, even if it's silly and not the soldier's idea. Even if they're going to die and burn very brightly, all of this in a year's time, or Tuesday, will converge to burn so brightly that a super rich senator from the Corps will leave her entire life, her trillions of family credits, to lead a fully militarized rebellion on the run that will eventually free the galaxy. Andor was wrong. He was a soldier, not a leader or a hero, when he said no to Gorman, trying to protect them the way he tried to protect Bix. You have to follow orders on a mission, whether that is a mission to make allies or a mission to steal. As week one taught us, you have to also be able to give orders if the leadership falls, or take orders, and the leadership will fall. It will happen at some point. And this so-called risk of being naive Gormans, taking in this imperial fed info that they aren't even aware of. So what? What if they did know? Of the risk of being naive Gormans, imperial fed info. They don't know, and that's the danger. Thing is, even if you do know, sometimes you act anyway. Luthen knows this. They are inexperienced. They won't be forever. They have to start somewhere. And they aren't likely to die yet with some decent leadership. They will possibly, maybe very likely, get locked up under the PORD that Mon Mothma is trying to quash and will fail to do so. That's okay. That will still help the resistance grow. They will burn brightly. It is likely to happen. But the burn brightly, I think Luthen knows that's still likely to happen later. Oh, but Cinta's death, it's going to be used against the Gormans. It's going to make them villainized. It will make them look violent. Guess what? Anything is going to be used to turn against the rebellion and tell you that they're violent. I'm with Luthen again on this. And I think Cinta and Vel formed the correct plan. Unfortunately, one young idiot should always be expected. And honestly, they're experienced enough, they should have known that if your rule is no guns, you have to have an old man pat down the young bucks. That's just how it is. Luthen is right. Andor was thinking like a soldier. And that's useless in a rebellion. Soldiers discount underdogs, but rebellions are built by the blood, sweat, and tears of underdogs. That's where hope comes from. And yet, Luthen is making a few similar mistakes. Everyone is playing safe and trying to protect themselves, running around protecting themselves or their relationships throughout the week. And it's kind of anticlimactic, but it's also very real. Cinta dies in a low-key heist, and maybe some of you are disappointed that the brown rebel, that this badass brown female warrior rebel died so uselessly. You know what? Your death or your arrest in a rebellion is likely to be useless and not at all glorious. Andor being arrested in season 1 away and unrelated to the Eldani heist is considered ideal by most states, governments, and police forces. In this case, it was an accident. But if the state can remove you from an action in a rebellion in a way that does not make you an inspiration, and even better, a way where they can vilify you and say you're a bad guy doing these other bad guy things, nothing to do with the rebellion, not at all aiding it, they will opt for that. When my kid went off to be a land defender for the first time, I warned them, walk a straight line. They will arrest you doing something stupid if they can. I, of course, was not listened to, but that nonetheless was my advice. Even if you are Cinta and you're invaluable, at least Cinta dies known. Uh, When Vel and Cinta meet back up, Cinta tells Vel that she did a job last year, and I wonder if it was a take-home job. Um, and she almost dies, and she has this really long recovery all by herself. What if Cinta did die? She would have just disappeared. No one would have known what happened to her. It would have been like, hey, remember Cinta? Yeah. What happened to her? I don't know. Alcohol, drugs, got married, got a desk job, who knows? That's the worst kind of death for someone like Cinta. Cinta died around comrades, trying to help build a rebellion, make it bigger. It was a stupid and useless death, but it wasn't alone. She'll be remembered. Hey, what happened to Cinta? She died helping out the Gormans get up and running. Gorman. Cinta died helping the Gorman front get going? Holy. Like, context. We know where she died, so we can place her somewhere in that rebellion and tell her story. Cinta's death is better than some of you might think it is. Okay, relationships. This week, we saw relationships all over the place. And I think the romantic relationships are your key, that underneath there are a lot of other deeper relationships flying around everywhere. Community. Bix has lost community and now uses drugs to deal with the trauma. Mina Ra wasn't Ferrix, but it still was community. Cassian alone isn't enough. She tries all the things: beautify the apartment, act normal, go for a walk to the park, go shopping, all the self-care capitalism crap, and it doesn't work. She can't properly, because those are things of privilege she can't properly engage in, because her and Cassian might get caught. They're luxuries. Even if she's in an apartment on Coruscant where you can actually see the sky, she's still Bix, and she can't escape that. So she's stuck in this apartment with her rebel boyfriend, and this should be really cool and ideal. After all, her rebel boyfriend's the son of the president of the Daughters of Ferrix, which is a matriarchal social group, but here he is acting like, with all this overprotective machismo, he is not thinking like his people. He's not thinking like a leader. He's thinking like a soldier. It's so imperial. It has no place in the rebellion, and yet it's everywhere. Oh, do I feel Bix in this moment? Maybe a bit. Maybe a bit. I've been in those shoes before. Be a fucking rebel, Cassian Andor. You're not here for a paycheck. You're here for a cause. Andor and Luthen will fix some of all of this by the end with Bix, and give her the revenge she needs. Dedra and Cyril are playing spy couple. Cyril isn't playing with all the information, and I think he's likely to be betrayed in the end. Cinta, Vel, and Andor remind Luthen that they are all humans who need love, and why is he doing this? Well, Bix is apparently reminding him of how low this can go, because it sounds like he's been there once before. Not sure how to cope. And Clea and Luthen remind us it was always your idea once the pressure starts to cook. And then Luthen gets back to leading. He lets Val and Cinta work together. He gives Andor a mission where he can offer Bix revenge that she's wanted. She needs this. She finally gets this. Luthen is listening to his people a bit at the end, after he is drowned in so much other outside information. Perrin? If Perrin is like my family, before he arrived, he said to Mon, hey, don't cause a scene. And she's like, I don't know what you mean. And then she goes and drops, you know, politically radical truth bombs, like, to the most politically dangerous person in the room. Parent stands behind Mom, you know, on this, and I'm kind of with that. He looks a little like he's dying on the inside, though. The Gorman senator won't piss off the emperor for his people. Luthen is using Gorman's relationship to the core to aid the rebellion, and love of culture and tradition is a relationship that empowers the Gorman front. All right, mentors. Big relationships in here. It really is mentors. We see the impact of Luthen mentoring Andor, a once lost adult. And also, Luthen is better mentoring his team near the end of this, as I mentioned. Luthen and Andor both have some control issues. How Andor micromanages Bix, and how Luthen micromanages his team until he listens. We are shown that it is a mentor relationship when we see how Andor can put on different spy faces, the way Luthen is also able to switch personas, and he has taught him. Meanwhile, Wilmon finds a father mentor in Saw Gerrera. I think this is why I recognized Wilman was going to join Saw, because I have been Wilman and I have found my Saw Gerrera in the past. The rebel who is already committed to a sunrise he not only won't see, but doesn't know the people who will see it. The sunrise isn't for Will or Saw. It is for someone they were once long ago as children, but lost the day they became young adults. Someone on a world far from theirs. Theirs is revenge. Theirs is revenge. The rebellion of the dead. No love left. You are free to destroy until someone else is one day free. So let's talk about how this gets mislabeled as anarchy. This attitude that Saw has, it does get called anarchist. And anarchists do push buttons that others aren't held to due to some of their social constraints. But this isn't what actually makes Saw Gerrera an anarchist. That's not what anarchy is. Saw's anarchy comes from Latin America, which shouldn't surprise you. He's based off of Che Guevara. So Saw's anarchy, it exists in Latin American anarchy, African anarchy, Indigenous American anarchies, Muslim anarchies. It's a nationalist anarchy, and it's very different than European philosophic anarchy. I think this is why people don't get it. It's different in different places as well. Gilroy mentioned that he studied Zapata, so I'm going to assume he's studied Zapata's political descendants. The relationship of resistance, a diversity of tactics. I love Saw for the revenge fantasy. That just feels good sometimes, even though I'm not necessarily going out there committing revenge fantasies. Sometimes you need to have it on TV for you so you can get it out of your system. All right. I love Saw for the revenge fantasy because the truth is, whether you are actually Saw in the real world or not, you have to embrace that your movement only wins with a diversity of tactics, including a rogue group of partisans. Saw is a reality you don't want to face, and chances are the revolutions you look up to have worked with a Saw Gerrera of their own at some point. Hell, even these rebels have. How much of that we're going to see in Andor is unknown. But we know it's already happened previous to 5BBY. So, High Horses dismantled. We all know who each other is in this fight. Revolution is not for the same, and it's not. It will either injure your soul in the process, or your soul has already been damaged. And you see this in characters. Like, Saw's partisans are a soul damaged group of people. And that's why Willman connects with Saw, right? And you see other people, like, it injures their soul along the way. Bix is wrestling with this. We're wrestling with the question of, who can I kill? If I'm the hero, who do I get to kill? And that question is going to eat away at your soul. In traditional times, we have ceremony for that. Sometimes that happens in Indigenous land defense now. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't think it's happening enough anyway. But this is one of the questions that we get asked. The question I want to see everybody else ask, the Star Wars universe, the characters we're all watching ask, is why Gorman? No one knows right now why Gorman. Cyril doesn't know why Gorman. Luthen, the senators, none of them know why Gorman. And I'm really interested in who figures it out first. My bet is on Saw, because it's connected to minerals and crystals. And we're not sure if this crystallite or chirolite is Kyber. I think it probably is. Krennic's been obsessed with this for decades. Saw knows about this. This is Saw's connection to Jyn Erso and her parents. Rebel Rising novels will fill you in on that if you need it. So that's why I think Saw's going to be the first one to figure it out, but we will see. Some folks are wondering, why are they building an armory? Because if you're going to mine somebody else's land, you are going to need an armory full of a militarized force to combat the people whose land you are about to destroy, and then to jail them, and so that you can proceed with your land destruction project. That's why there's an armory being built to mine what I think is Kyber, possibly by another name. All right, those are my thoughts. I'm sorry it's long, but it's essentially a movie leading into next week's movie in week 3.